Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this video in which we will look at mixed operations with fractions. So what we're looking at are examples of questions where you have different operations like we do here. So firstly, let's look at a question like this, where I have a plus and a divide and I have to perform a calculation. So fractions are numbers, just like integers, they follow BIDMAS. The order of operations. Do anything in the brackets first, then index or powers. Division and multiplication are the same rank. You do whichever comes first, left to right. And then addition or subtraction last, whichever comes first, left to right. So if I want to calculate this here, I don't go 3/8 plus 3/8 and then divide 3. I have to follow order of operations. Division comes before addition. So this is my working out. I'm going to leave this first 3/8 alone. And I'm going to do 3/8 divided by 3. Well, remember 3/8 divided by 3, you write it as 3/1. And then what I do is I flip the second fraction and make it a times. I multiply this by the reciprocal of 3/1. And reciprocal just means flipped over. So now I've got a times. Remember, multiplication comes before addition. So I'm going to do that first. So it's going to be 3/8. And then when I'm multiplying, I can cancel out the 3's. I'm just left with 1/8. 3/8 divided by 3 is 1/8. Now I've only got the addition to do, so I go 3/8 plus 1/8 is 4/8. Now remember, whenever you give an answer in these calculations, it should be simplified. 4/8 is correct, but not simplified. 4/8 is just a half. All right, let's try this question here. So now we've got a division and a subtraction, but remember, we do anything in the brackets first. So this time we're going to do the subtraction first because it's in the brackets. So I'm going to leave the 5 alone. Now to do a half minus a third, I can only subtract fractions when they have the same denominator. So a half is 3/6, a third is 2/6, and I will subtract them. So I go 5 divided by, I'm going to do the subtraction first. 3/6 minus 2/6 just gives 1/6. So I've got 5 divided by 1/6. Remember, 5 is 5/1. The way I divide fractions is I flip the second fraction and make it a times. So I get 5 times 6 is 30. 1 times 1 is 1. It's 30/1, which is just 30. All right, let's now look at some worded problems. So which fraction is halfway between an 1/8 and a 1/10? Now, a lot of people would say, oh yeah, cool, that's just 1/9. Well, that's wrong. 1/9 isn't halfway between an 1/8 and a 1/10. See, 1/9 is closer to a 1/10 than an 1/8. So how do I actually find the fraction halfway between? Well, if you have two numbers and you want to find the number halfway between, you add them up and divide by 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an 1/8 and a 1/10. I'm going to get my answer and then divide by 2. So to add these two fractions, they need to have the same denominator. So the lowest common multiple of 8 and 10 is 40. So I'm going to times top and bottom of this first fraction by 5 to make its denominator 40. To make this one have denominator 40, I times top and bottom by 4. 1/10 is the same as 4/40. So now that I have two fractions with the same denominator, I can add them. So I add the numerators and I don't touch the denominator. It's 9/40 divided by 2. And of course, dividing by 2, I can flip the second fraction and make it a times. 2 is 2/1, so when I flip it, it becomes a half. My answer is 9/80. 9/80 is halfway between an 1/8 and a 1/10. An 1/8 is 0.125, this is 0.1, and this is 0.1125. All right, let's look at one more worded question. So each week, James completes 1.5 hours of homework on Wednesday, 3/4 of an hour of homework on Thursday. how many hours of homework will he complete in 5 weeks? So each week, so we're talking about just 1 week, he completes 1.5 hours plus 3/4 of an hour of homework. So we're going to add these two. So remember, when we're dealing with mixed numbers and operations involving mixed numbers, we convert it to an improper fraction. So 1.5 is 3/2. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So to add these two together, they have to have the same denominator. So I'm going to times top and bottom by 2. If I times the denominator by 2, this will have denominator 4, and I can add them together. So because I'm timesing the bottom by 2, I must also times the top by 2. What you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. I have 6/4 plus 3/4, which is 9/4. So he does 9/4 hours each week. 9/4 is 2.25. So that's how much he does in 1 week. So in 5 weeks, what I need to do is multiply this by 5. So remember, if you're multiplying by a whole number, write it over 1. 9 times 5 is 45. 4 times 1 is 4. So our final answer is 45/4 hours, but that doesn't really explain the question. I mean, if someone said to you, you got to do 45/4 of an hour, you'd just be like, what does that mean? So we're going to write it as a mixed number. So 45 divided by 4. 4 goes into 45 11 times, remainder 1. 45/4 is 11.25. This makes it a lot easier to deal with. So over 5 weeks, James will complete 11.25 of an hour of study, or 11 hours and 15 minutes. All right, thank you so much for tuning into this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.